So you want to play the old 3DS and Nintendo Switch Monster Hunter games, including Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate, Monster Hunter 4, Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, Monster Hunter Generations, and Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate? Well, this is the video for you. Hi, I'm Ross from RPM, and this is the definitive guide to emulating 3DS and Nintendo Switch Monster Hunter games. Capcom unfortunately has no plans to remaster or remake any of some of the best games from the Switch or 3DS generation, so the only current way to play these games is to emulate them using a computer or in some cases a phone. The best way that I know how to enjoy these games involves two emulators that Nintendo actually legally struck down, so the only way to access them is to know someone who has the files. Luckily, I am providing a download suite where you can access the emulators down in the comments. So in this video, I'm going to cover how to set up the 3DS emulator Citra and the Switch emulator Yuzu and download each of the 3DS and Switch Monster Hunter games and configure their controls for an Xbox controller, but you can use any, for the best optimal playthrough.
And one last thing, I've made comprehensive guides for emulating games for Monster Hunter, all the way from PS2 all the way up to Nintendo Switch, including PSP, Nintendo 3DS, Nintendo Wii, and more. If you're interested in any other Monster Hunter game being emulated, make sure you click the links on your screen. Without further ado, let's get right into the video.
So now we're going to cover how to set up Citra, the entire guide for its emulation, and its games, including Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate, Monster Hunter 4, Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, and Monster Hunter Generations. Now, setup will be different for these because I will be showing how to emulate these games using Citra, which, if those of you who do not know, recently was struck down due to Nintendo copyright issues and was taken down. Because of this, I will provide a link in the description to download my files for this emulator and the next, which is going to be Yuzu. Setup for Citra because of this leaves much to be desired, as you will simply download the files in the description and locate local Citra QTXC to launch, and if all files are correctly downloaded, you will have Citra and it'll be ready to go. Alright, so let's get into how to set up Citra. So I provided a Google emulation suite via a link in the description that includes Yuzu, Citra, and all my settings and games that you are free to access. I'm going to show you how to set up Citra first. The way setting up Citra works is you have to download the local and roaming folders and place them in your app data. That's as simple as it gets. There's a little more extra for Citra, but we'll talk about that in a second. So we're going to start by clicking on these Citra emulator files first, going to local and downloading the file called Citra. Now this is very important. The local contains the exe, and it isn't going to be very large, so we'll do this pretty quick. So it's going to go ahead and be downloaded, and we're going to extract it exactly where you want to extract it. I recommend just putting it in place. You could extract it directly to your app data and local. However, I just extracted to downloads to make it its own file Citra, just like this. It's going to go ahead and extract all of those files to a Citra file, which means our local is good to go. So once this is done extracting, we're going to go ahead and click Control X on the Citra file that we just downloaded and move that over to users, your name, app data, local. And here we're going to paste. This is me pasting down below. Now we're good to go. Now I need to do the roaming part, but the roaming contains most of the large chunks of data, so we're going to have to download it in chunks, basically. We're going to go back to Citra emulator files, going to go to roaming, click on Citra. We're going to download each of these folders except for the load. We're going to start with the other ones first. So I'm going to go ahead and download config, dates, log, and to get this window out of here, cheats, sysdata, SDMC, and shaders, and these will all download since we're downloading from Google Drive as zip files. Just okay. So we're gonna go and zip those, and then those should be done pretty quick. We'll open up our downloads once more. Once we're back at downloads, we're gonna go ahead and have to make a folder to put all of these in. So we're gonna right click, new folder. You're gonna wanna label this one local, or Citra, sorry, Citra with a capital C. Not to be confused with the file that you already moved to local. Then you're going to extract each of the files you just downloaded into that local folder. So I will be speeding that up. It's pretty simple. You're going to go ahead and just extract them all to the same, make sure you're extracting them in the same place, the Citra folder that you just created. And after finishing the extraction on all of those, we should be good to go. All right, now as we're finally finishing our extractions, we're gonna go ahead and get started on the next part. We should have 8 total files, or file folders inside of Citra. You should count 8. Config, log, nan, cheats, sysdata, SDMC, shaders, and that last one, which is states. Now we can go ahead and start downloading the load file. This will contain most of the data, including the texture packs that I have. So we're going to click download. We're going to skip through that until we get to the end, because it could take a little while. And once we are done, we can go ahead and go to downloads and see all of our load. But first we need to make a new file folder contain these new folders. So I'll right click new folder and label it load. Once we're done with that, we're gonna go ahead and extract each and every one of the load files we just downloaded from that Google Drive link all the way to the new load folder. Simply extract, locate, and find that load folder. I put mine in downloads. And we'll fast forward through the next part until we get to our final part for this. Alright, so once we are finished extracting that final load file, I'm going to go ahead and open it. Make sure that whenever you open the load file, there's not a load. It should only be mods and textures here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and Control X that load and get it in a copy, paste it back into the file origin for this, because it's just easier. So I'm just checking out the files real quick. I'm going to go ahead and Control X on this load. I'm going to paste it by clicking back and then skipping those files. All right, now our load should be good to go. We can move on to the next step. So we also downloaded texture packs for Monster Hunter 3U and 4U. If you don't want to play either of these games, you don't have to do this step, but it is important. We're going to take the load file we just finished, and we're going to put the load file inside of Citra, like I just did, the Citra file that we finished populating earlier. Now we should have a fully 9 folder Citra that we can now cut and paste in the users, your name, app data, roaming. We're going to paste it right here. Once we do that, we are good to go with Citra, but we're going to go ahead and fix some texture packs as I mentioned earlier. We're going to start with MH3U textures. We're going to extract all. And we're going to need to go to the following. We're going to need to go to, once again, users, your name, app data, roaming, Citra. You're going to go down to load, textures, then you're going to go to the one ending in AE400 and click extract for 3U textures. Go ahead and click do this for all conflicts and skip. Then begin extracting that MH3U textures into your AE400 folder. Then you're going to click on the M4U textures, go to extract. Basically, it's going to be the other one, the 126300 that you just was in the same location as the previous game folder. This one's going to take a little while because Monster Hunter 4U has a lot of textures, so go ahead and wait for this to fully complete and then we'll come back once it's absolutely done. Alright, so it's finishing up. It shouldn't take that long depending on your system integrity, and of course a lot of this is based on how fast you can download things because this is a lot of data to download, understandably so, but you will get access to all of the games playable with good cheats and good graphics for the most part, and you can customize however you want. And finally, go ahead and go locate your local Citra and then click on the Citra QT to launch Citra to be ready to go and play those games. Now once you launch Citra, you're probably going to want to populate it with games, so go ahead and click on add new game directory if you already have a game. If you don't, that's okay. There's multiple ways of getting it. You can either go back to Google Drive and go to the games folder, which I linked in the description, which I will show you how to do, or you navigate to r/roms just as I have done in this entire video and download a game there. So here we're going to go back to the Citra file. We're going back to the entire Monster Hunter Emulation suite. We're going to click on games, and I have MH4, MH4U, 3U, and Gen ready to go, ready to play on the Citra. The only one that won't be able to be played on the Citra is GU because it was made for the Switch. That'll be for the emulator Yuzu, which we'll get into later. So what I'm going to want to do is once I've downloaded a game, I'm going to click add new game directory and locate the folder of that game. So for me, it's going to be in downloads. Once I do that, all the games there are going to pop up. I'll be ready to play them at whenever we like. And that's as simple as it gets for setting up games in Citra. However, there are some finicky settings that might be useful to cover simply because they might be a little difficult. So I'm going to go ahead. If you want to change the cheats or the FPS or the graphic settings that I have, you can always right click properties, and then uncheck any of these boxes if you like, or add new cheats. Just make sure you save every time you do that. That's the essential way that we use cheats in games. It's very useful, very nice. Another thing you can do is head up to the top screen and select the emulation, or select view, screen layout, and here's where you can show, because the Nintendo 3DS has 2 screens, you can configure the most optimal way for you. I prefer a large screen. And lastly, another thing that might cause an issue, if you click on emulation and configure and go to graphics, something that is important is the internal resolution. I would set this to 5 times or 6 times if it's not set that way for you. It will help your game run better most likely, and it's just good in general. You could also very easily test out and set the graphics API to something different if it's not working for you. OpenGL doesn't work for everyone, so you can also go to the same emulation configure and change that as well. But this is proof that it works once I've downloaded it all and I'm good to go. This is a demo of the large screen. You can see the main screen with your games on the left and the smaller screens on your right, but we're launching it up and it's good to go. Alright, now that we've configured Citra and its games and settings, we can get into playing online. Now, the way that this works, of course, is that Nintendo did strike down Citra, and so therefore you had to have downloaded the build as you have previously done up to this point from my Google Drive link. Now, because of this, obviously there's no multiplayer online servers being hosted officially by Nintendo. Even if you have a 3DS and you're playing Monster Hunter 3U as intended, you still won't be able to do it as these servers were taken offline. So the only way to play, and I'm sure it's not the only way to play, but the way to play that I know at least is through hunterverse.com. So the way you do that is basically we're going to configure an OpenVPN. So if you've already done this in the SSPP setup, I did this in depth. So if you've already completed this, you're good to go and you have OpenVPN set up. If you don't, I'm going to give a real quick overview on the steps and then we'll jump right into in Citra. So essentially, we'll navigate to this link in the description. Sign up for Hunsterverse, where you'll give an email and a username. It's safe. Once you're there, you get a 12-character activation code from your email that you entered. Then you need to join the Hunsterverse Discord server and the welcome channel. Simply type the letters that they send to you right here. So I have read and I agree to follow the Hunsterverse rules. Once you type that and send that, go to bot commands and then type !activate and then the code that you were sent in your email. After you do that, type !IP in the bot command channel. Get your host IP. Make sure you write that down. Once you're done with that, click on one of these links for whatever system you have. I recommend 64-bit for the most uses. Download OpenVPN. Once you've downloaded OpenVPN, you'll get a certificate. Make sure you download that somewhere where you remember. I downloaded it in my downloads folder. After you've downloaded OpenVPN, you're going to go ahead and right-click the little computer icon in your desk tray. Once you do that, you click Import File, and then choose the certificate that was sent to you that you placed in your downloads folder or wherever it was convenient to you. Once you do that, you'll see a success screen, and then you can simply double-click it to connect to the Hunsterverse server and be ready to play online. Alright, now let's break in how to do it on Citra. It's actually fairly simple for Citra. What you're going to do is you're going to click on Multiplayer, and Public Game Lobby was taken offline because of Nintendo, so the only way you can really do it is direct connect to room. Going to enter this exact server address and ports 5000, 5001, 5002, 5003, 5004, or 5005. And you're probably asking, what's the difference? There is no difference really, those are just the different virtual gathering halls. So let's say 5001 is full, and you go to 5002, 5003, 5004, and so on. Give yourself a nickname, then click connect. These people are clearly already in a room, so I'm going to go ahead and leave it. Let's go find an empty one. Alright, now I am connected and good to go. So let's show how to do it with Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, which will be the exact same process for Monster Hunter 4. Alright, so we've launched the game. Let's go ahead and log in how we normally would. The way we're going to play multiplayer is slightly different than the way we did it with PSP games, but it is really easy. All you need to do, go to the gathering hall. Once you're here, it's going to load in and you're going to click on world map, solo multiplayer, and then you're not going to click on online, you're going to click on local play. Okay. Once you're here, you can either find or create your gathering hall. If you are going to be hosting the game, you're obviously going to create your gathering hall. If you're joining a buddy, you're going to click on find, but this will be the host for our example. So let's go ahead and click on create gathering hall. Obviously you have all of your options you can set and a passcode if you like, and then click confirm. Gonna load in and you'll be good to go as the host, and I will show briefly how to do it for someone who's joining. And if you are joining, it is basically the exact same process with almost no change. The only difference is, of course, that once you click on multiplayer and click direct connect to room, you need to have the exact same server address as your friend and the exact same port number as your friend. As an example, I'm going to join somebody else's right here. As you can see, now I'm in the lobby with 2 others, and I'm good to start playing the game however I like. Now that that is fully set up, I simply will go in, but instead of creating a gathering hall, I will click find a gathering hall, and nothing else is different outside of that. Alright, so we have launched 3U. Now let's go ahead and proceed and log in just as normal. Once we're here, we're going to go over to the all-9 multiplayer cat over here in Mocha Woods. We are going to click on Multi and Tavern. That's basically the process for setting up the gathering hall. Now the process for joining is a little different, so we're going to go over the process for joining right now. Alright, now for joining a friend, it is pretty simple. Once again, you're going to go to multiplayer, and then you're going to put in direct connection to room, and then this server address and port. The port will change, of course. Make sure to do the exact same port that your friend is using, and you'll see both of you inside of the group together, and you'll be good to go. So we're going to go ahead and start up Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate, and we're going to log into the game, and we're going to run over to the multiplayer cat near the ferry in Moga Village. I'm going to click talk to them, and we're going to click on friend search. When you click on friend search and you're in the same room in Citra, you can go ahead and click on your friend, and then Marina or Tavern, wherever you choose. And it's going to send you to the same multiplayer lobby that your friend is in. So for this instance, I'm actually joining a lobby with a save on my computer and my laptop. So I have 2 copies of myself in the same lobby. That easy. Once you're done with that, you're good to go with 3 multiplayer. Alright, and lastly, we are going to deal with multiplayer for Monster Hunter Gen. Basically, the way you do this is actually very simple. Once again, you're going to click on multiplayer, direct connect to room, just as we've done the other setups. You're going to use this exact server address, make a nickname for yourself, and choose a port from 5000 to 5005. Now once again, doesn't matter which one you choose, they act as virtual gathering halls. I would just try to find one that's empty, and make sure that you and your friend are using the exact same port. So make sure you remember which port you're in. You're gonna click connect. You'll be good to go for hosting your game. So let's show how to host the game on the actual launched ROM. Alright, so once we've launched the game, we're gonna log in as usual. And once we're in the game, once again, we're going to emulate local play. So what we're gonna do, going to get inside the game, and we're going to click hub, multiplayer, then it says play with people nearby, local play. If you're hosting a lobby, you're going to click create hub, click A, set whatever you'd like, of course, then simply click create hub. Once you're done with that, you're in your own hub, and the exact process is to join a hub is the exact same. Ensure, of course, that you have the same server address and port. Once you are certain of that, if you want to join your friend's hub, all you have to do is click on hub, multiplayer, and instead of create hub, you click search hub. And if there's one available, which there isn't one for mine, if there is one available, you click, which will be your friend's, you click on his, and you will join, and you'll be good to go. That's how we do it for Monster Hunter Gen. Alright, so while I was recording the Citra version, I realized that you cannot play Generations Ultimate multiplayer unless you play it on Citra. So I will still be including the entire guide for Yuzu, which is the Nintendo Switch emulator, as well as GU on Yuzu, but you can't play multiplayer on it. You can only play multiplayer on the Citra version, and that's called Monster Hunter XX. So I've included in the Google Drive link in the description. Under the games category, you can now get MHXX, simply downloading this file right here. Place it where you normally would, downloads for example, and then download the English patch, placed right here. Once you do that, it's the same process as before. We're going to add a new game directory. Mine's located in the MHXX folder that I created. You select that folder, as you can see it's already been selected, and the game will show up, but it'll be in Japanese. The way to fix that is to go to File, Install CIA, and click on the crossplay.cia file you just downloaded, the English patch, and click Open. Once you do that, it'll all be set and good to go, and the way to play online is the exact same way that you play Generations online with no difference, and that means you should be good to go playing Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate /XX fully online. Alright, now let's get into how to download Yuzu. Yuzu is the emulator for the Nintendo Switch and only houses one Monster Hunter game, Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate. So,
Because Nintendo struck it down, of course, just like Citra, is going to be very similar. I provided a link in the description, a Google Drive link, where you will be able to download Yuzu and all of its contents, as well as my cheats and games. It's the basic gist of it. Unfortunately, Nintendo took it down, so the way that Yuzu works is whenever we download it, we need to download two folders, a local and a roaming folder. We will cut both folders and put them in your app data for it to work. We're going to click on Yuzu Emulator Files. We have a roaming and local. We'll start with local for today. We're going to double click this, and then the Yuzu file inside, we're going to go ahead and download. It's going to zip that file for us and then going to place it into our downloads. Once it's finished downloading, we are going to go to our downloads and extract it exactly to downloads, or wherever you'd like, but to make this process easier, I always like putting it in downloads. Go ahead and click to extract all and ensure that it's not going to its own folder, that it's going to downloads. Once this happens, this is my local folder. So it's going to finish all of its extraction. It's got a decent amount of files, a lot smaller than Citra, thankfully. So it's going to extract all of its files to the downloads folder, and once it's finished, we're going to move it into our app data local, and you're going to see that in a second, not dissimilar from Citra. Now that it's complete, I'm going to Control X that Yuzu folder, and I'm going to go to Drive, Users, Your Name, App Data, then Local, and I'm simply going to paste this Yuzu folder I just downloaded, just like that. Alright, now let's go get the roaming. We're going to go back to Yuzu Emulator Files, click on Roaming. Once again, download the Yuzu file. We'll wait for this to finish downloading. Once it's done, we're going to go back to Downloads and extract it once again. Be sure you're choosing the correct file. We're going to extract it once again in the Downloads section to make things easy. Make sure you're not extracting it to the same place that you extracted the previous one, otherwise two Yuzu folders might have some issues. Go ahead and click on the folder you just downloaded and extract it to what I would recommend downloads for the sake of ease. Click extract. Go a lot faster. Go ahead and Control X that file you just extracted and head over to your drive, Users, Your Name, App Data, and Roaming this time. Paste. Well, Yuzu should all be good to go. Now let's get in how to launch Yuzu. Pretty simple stuff. It's going to be located in our local, so go back to our app data, click on local, go down to Yuzu that we just finished adding all the way at the bottom. Once we're there, we're going to click on Yuzu Windows MSVC and scroll all the way down to select the Yuzu icon. So this says Yuzu on there. Windows might have some problems with that. That's okay. It is safe. But I always recommend to just bypass that. Your Yuzu will open and you'll be able to play in Nintendo Switch games. Now for the one game that I have, GU provided, of course you could always go to r/ROMs and then use and add it to the game directory as you would Citra. But I've provided a link to GU if that's all you wanted to play. You're going to go to Games, MHGU, and then download that file. It is quite large. Once you're done, locate where it is. I'd recommend putting it in a folder. For me, I put it in a folder called MHGU. I'm going to click on Add New Game Directory. Once I do this, I'm going to locate the MHGU folder my new game is in, select it, and you'll be ready to play Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate on Yuzu. As for controls for Yuzu, once again, this is extremely simple. The Nintendo Switch is much easier to configure because it didn't have the two screens like the Nintendo 3DS did. This part, simply just map all of the buttons using the Pro Controller setting. Of course, you can choose whatever controller you want. You can choose any player you want. And you can also be keyboard or keyboard and mouse. You can choose anything, just map your controls. It's very simple, nice to use. And it's located in Emulation, configured just like Citra. It could not be easier. There is no special control trick that I need to mention. The only thing I'd say is for me, I usually switch out L and R. So where you might have to do that, but simply map your controller buttons or PC strokes and you'll be good to go. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the content, please consider going down below, giving us a like, and hitting that subscribe button as it really helps us out. Be sure also to leave a comment telling us what you want us to play next, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye!